From project reviews to incredible interviews, along with the general things in Web3, CraigO's Crypto Corner covers the space in a fun and engaging way. We dive in so our listeners can conceptualize, plan, strategize, and implement their very next move. We are quickly becoming a platform that enriches and supports the overall foundation of Web3. In order to grow, you need your voice to be heard. If you have infinite curiosity, then CraigO's Crypto Corner is just for you. Come join us.
You're tuning into CraigO's Crypto Corner. The best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technology. Great reviews, incredible interviews with the leading people in the Web3 ethos, and just the general things, sometimes Web3 related. Let's get to it today. First, I want to welcome everybody into Twitter Spaces, Facebook, YouTube Live, and as of late, we've done LinkedIn Spaces. Interesting. Hopefully more people will tune in there. First, I want to intro my co-host, Mr. Meta Matt. Where is he?
Hey, how we doing, Craig? How we doing?
It's going to be a great episode today. And I think first we're going to start it off with the Daily Ralpha. You'll give me a little back and forth commentary. And Tony, I'll cue you in on the screen share when I'm ready. Not yet, though. All right, so let's do this. So last year, Matt, ETH was standing at a little over $3,000 and it quickly dropped below $1,000. I remember it when it was $900 and then eventually recovering to current levels. Will this cause a price surge or will there be more losses before a rebound? Curious minds seek answers. Matt, my thought is we're going to continue to go up. Will we have a little bit of a retrace? Yes. Do I think it will go to 900? No. What are your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, with crypto, it's really dependent on catalysts like news-based catalysts, such as the SEC getting involved and all. Like, there's just so much that can happen that I'm not going to say it's going up or it's going down. Regardless, I'm going to try to make money, either shorting it or buying the levels when you see nice resistance breaks. So I personally don't care which way it goes. I'm ready either way.
And respectfully speaking, shout out to Tone Deaf Gary Gensler. Appreciate you for all that you don't know in Web3, but hopefully you'll learn, and that would be great. NFT Go's Market Sentiment Index. Now, we had them on a few weeks ago, and this, according to the Daily Ralpha, it plummeted to 28, indicating a cool down in the NFT space, especially for ETH-based NFTs. Now, here's the interesting part, Matt. However, BTC Ordinals, Solana NFTs, and Cardano NFTs are experiencing a resurgence. Is this all season for NFTs? Or notably, Ordinals just had its most successful day since its inception, which gets me really excited for my on-chain monkey community back here, which is going to be joining us today because of our today's incredible guest, Tim. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. What are your thoughts on that interesting little bit of news from the Daily Ralpha?
I mean, it's interesting, especially Solana NFTs. I know Cardano NFTs have, they've been having a lot of hype ever since the, the gods and just everything going on with people moving off of Solana. I personally think that just like, with most ecosystems, it's going to be just waves, like just with a stock market, you have the penny stocks and you have biotech season, you have blue chip season. I think it's going to be waves until we figure out who the real leaders are in the space.
I know, but I'm a big fan of ETH, and I'm also a fan of Bitcoin because of what is happening and what Danny Yang from the On-Chain Monkey is doing in describing our first Genesis collection on that blockchain. I'm really excited. And again, he speaks to the tech part of it. That's not me. I'm more the fundamentals, the feel, the community cohesion. How is it connecting directly with products and services? But here's our last piece from the Daily Ralph. A big shout out to Ralph Quintero. He's out today handling some really big business, and just love that guy. Twitter user proposed that NFT collections limit their supply to below 1,500, possibly 1,000, or maybe even 500 to create this possible thing that we call FOMO, fear of missing out. And that might possibly drive sales. However, this could lead to a race to the bottom. It's worth considering normalizing projects that don't sell out and not making it a measure of success. Many successful projects did not sell out. Think about that, right? And then in short, limiting supply isn't the only key to success, right? This supply versus demand. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
I mean, honestly, like, I know the bull run, everyone was doing the 10K collections. I think that now, just because there is, like you said, less demand in the NFT market, it makes sense to have less supply. I think just having realistic expectations is really what it's all about. We see in every market, Elon Musk right now is having trouble with Tesla selling he has too much supply, not enough demand. So it's not just the NFT market; it's happening everywhere when it comes to these types of trying to figure out what people want and how much you're able to make and what works.
And I'm also seeing artists, they're playing with the, call it the year of the burn. Just connotes a different thought. But I'm seeing a lot of people, that start off with a collection of 10,000 and they're dwindling pulling it down. And my thing is, I originally get into a collection, and my alpha play doesn't mean it's for everyone. Is I won't combine to try to grab that next NFT because I think it's rare. Let the original supply that I have lessen rather than opening up my wallet to potential new risks. Just my thought. Take it for whatever it is. But let's get into today's episode. And before we do, I would like to just go again real quick. The Daily Ralph, you can do that screen share real quick, Tony. So with over 80,000 subscribers, no worries, we're doing the click. We're just a little technical issues, no problem. With over 80,000 subscribers to the Daily Ralph, they are crushing it. Ralph always curates great information, whether it's art, whether it's the daily Ethereum price, year-to-date price, whether it's mints that are coming up, whether it's jobs in Web3, he covers it all. The Daily Ralph has everything you need, a 5-minute or less read. And guess what? As I always like to say, it is free, free, free. Go and subscribe to it. We've pinned it, I believe, in our Twitter Spaces. Perfect. We have. And now, today, we're going to get to our episode. Let's go for our fire introduction. I'm really excited for this one. Today's guest is a globally recognized thought leader on emerging technologies, smart cities, moonshots, and the future of work life. He's also the founder and CEO of Emerging Transport Advisors, where he provides investors, companies, and governments with clarity and guidance on how to best position themselves for massive disruptions ahead. Before he became the founder of Emerging Transport Advisors, Tim led key strategic partnerships at Google X Moonshot Factory, where he worked on some of the most pressing global issues. He was also a key member of the founding team behind Waymo, the world's first self-driving robotaxi, trucking, and delivery vehicle technology. With his expertise in smart city tools, Tim led cross-functional teams to implement sustainable and socially equitable urban mobility technology, focusing on climate resiliency. As the former Chief Innovation Officer at the San Francisco MTA, he is presently serving as a key advisor and mentor in several emerging technology spaces. As a highly sought-after speaker and digital nomad, Tim frequently attends and presents at conferences and events all over the world. His unique insights and thought leadership come from his diverse public and private systems experience. Tim has a strong track record of identifying signs, leading cross-functional teams, building partnerships, delivering moonshot innovation. As I always like to say, let's plot, plan, strategize, and implement our next move in Web3. GM, Tim, how are you?
GM, Craig, thanks for having me, and it's great to be here. When I hear those introductions, I'm like, is this really me? But I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
It's really cool in this space how right now, and as you say, it's an opportunity market. It's not a bear market. It's sort of that optimism that we approach it with, that I get to have guests like you and that are humble guests, but are very knowledgeable. And so today, the world of transportation, agriculture, as we know it, is changing rapidly. And overnight, I mean, there was a lot of things, I think, from the beginning of 2020 to right now, we've seen our world change in ways that I think are, almost like mind-numbing. It's just like it's going so fast. And the technology, you keep up. You're either, as you said in one speech, you're either a consumer of the product or service, and or you are the creator. Do you want to be ahead of the curve, or do you want to be behind it? And I think, I wanted to start off with you. When did you first start your Web3 journey? Because obviously transportation was always part of what you were doing. You worked, as the head at the MTA in San Francisco. But when did your Web3 journey truly begin?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I've been thinking of it more and more. Obviously comes in phases, right? So I'm a product of Web 2. I'm not gonna, and I'm proud of it because I was there at the .com boom and bust. And I learned some really hard lessons back then. I got burnt. And I was really like, wow, I put too much faith in all of these different things. And, being a lot younger and more naive back then, I was like, this is it. This is the future of the world. And it wasn't until I started paying attention around 2017, 2018, when I started hearing about, I was at Google X at the time. And a lot of the folks were talking about like, we're going to build basically the next internet because this current one is too centralized, it's too risky, there's too many issues with a whole bunch of different things. And all the things that you all know, like I didn't tell this group anything that they don't know about the issues with Web 2. And yet we were living in Web 2. Like this is what our careers were built on. This is what basically had got us to where we got to now. But we just started seeing more and more cracks, and those cracks started becoming crevices, and those started becoming like canyons, and then it started becoming chasms. We're like, listen, this can't be sustained anymore. And at the same time, we're hearing so many more whispers and discussions from like, how can we do different things differently? How can we decentralize? How can we create more transparency in how we actually make decisions? And how do we bring out more people to actually from different backgrounds and different parts of the world to actually participate? And this idea of this like, decentralized autonomous organization and all these different things like, oh yeah, this is really cool. And then it got to the point of like, well, how do we actually do it? And then so I started just speaking to more and more people who are coming to the very similar conclusions that I'd come to, who had also been burnt. A lot of you guys are much younger than me, so maybe you hadn't seen those experiences, but really listen, think, okay, this looks really familiar, but this time we want to do it differently. And back then, I didn't have the ability to participate because it was so centralized, but now having the ability to participate means that you can actually affect the change in the direction that you want. And sure, it's clunky and it's messy and it's all over the place. And, half the Web3 tools, frankly, are junk. They don't really work half the time because they're brand new.
Right.
I just wasn't able to access that. I didn't have those insights back then to see that Web 2 was also clunky back then and terrible. So this time around, we have a lot more opportunity to participate. And I think that's the key difference, is that the participation has been much more available. And so that was my first real entree into it. Yeah. And then just learning more about the different communities, participating in different forums, talking more and more and understanding how blockchain and the different pieces work, and then getting into cryptocurrency as well, investing in it early in 18, 19. And it wasn't until about, I met with the on-chain monkey community actually through MetaGood and the work that Bill Tai was doing. And I got to meet all the folks, Good Things, Amanda Terry, etc.
And by the way, we're gonna get to that. I'm not gonna let you get too far ahead of me. I'm with you.
Okay.
We're in this together. So, but I want to unpack something that I thought was really interesting in some of the reading that I was doing. Right, is you have the thing called an S curve, and a lot of people don't know what it is. Right, there's key trends and innovations and emerging technologies. But when you hear the word S curve, how should people conceptualize S curve?
Yeah, so an S curve is basically an idea that starts, and then it gains momentum, gets more and more developed, and then it kind of starts to get harder, and people lose a little bit of faith in it, and then it starts to basically become commercialized and mainstream. But it's that beginning of that first bend of the S, where there's a lot of innovation, iteration, a lot of failure, a lot of learning, and then it kind of goes quiet for a little bit, and people say, well, that was it. And then it starts building again in the background, and then they start launching, and then it builds for scale. That's typically what an S curve does. The difference this time around, though, Craig, is that we are seeing S curves on S curves. That means we're getting multiple splinters of innovation happening off each other in a non-linear fashion, and we've never had that before. And so this is a very different time we're experiencing the next decade.
Well, what do you attribute that to? Because I know the Web3 space is so much different than any other kind of entrepreneurial space, because it's just the way that anyone can do it. First of all, the way to get in is just so easy, but also the investors' mindset is a lot different than your stereotypical investor's mindset, because there's a lot of degens involved. So what do you think is the biggest difference between Web3's S curve versus the other entrepreneurships and other companies?
Yeah, I think the thing is Web3 is so encompassing, right? So the difference being this time around is that, we've had all the background technology being built. So everything in Web2, I think of it this way: smartphones, Wi-Fi, the apps, etc., all of these different things, GPS, those were basically the foundational pieces in the LTE network going to 5G. All of those things have been the foundational networks. Machine learning and the neural networks, for example, those have been foundational to allow for a new way of advancing technology. This time round, the bases are AI, blockchain, crypto, all those different pieces, the metaverse, robotics, 3D printing, all these things have basically been forming themselves, and now they're all converging. And so we have this once in a generational opportunity to basically see these convergences happen in a non-linear fashion, which means that they're exponential. And frankly, guys, we're not ready for it. It's going to be happening so quickly that it's kind of like a bloom. I always envision it as like a mushroom bloom after a storm, or a blossom bloom of flowers. Yesterday we didn't see anything in the meadow, and then today we're seeing these buds, and tomorrow the entire thing's lit up with flowers. So this is how it's going to be moving forward.
I think it's a very noisy, busy, clunky space. I agree with you as far as Web3 is concerned. We have our degens who love their crypto and NFTs. I know that I do. I'm more connected to the communities now. I think I took a lot of risks last year. Our biggest bet is this podcast. But I love how you mentioned when you think about the .com, right? And as it was coming, once it settled in, the opportunities for like moonshot, investment and just going, crazy. I feel like right now is such a great opportunity time if you can tune down the noise. And maybe I want to hear some of your tactic on that. And right behind me is you see that beautiful OCM monkey. And we've got another one right here in my shirt. It's something I'm proud to be a part of because it's such a great community. And what I love is how communities are interconnective to one another. So you'll have, as you see, the ENS Maxi right behind me. There are a lot of ENS Maxis who are an on-chain monkey, but they're building, they're collaborating together, they're sharing stored experiences and shared storied experiences, but they also hold tokens in each ecosystem, and they're connecting and they're building and they're actually connecting direct products and services. And in a bit, we'll have the queen who's coming on from the ENS Maxi community, and she's created a great product called Good Ass Tequila. So I'm really excited about that. I don't get to say ass a lot on my podcast, but hey, this time it's completely appropriate, Tim, for today's episode with you on it, my friend. But, how is moonshot thinking important in big trends being practically deployed? Let's focus on this answer on in transportation and urban environments. And so if we can focus moonshot thinking around urban environments for transportation, we think about New York City. So I want everybody right now to envision New York City and the travel, the taxi, the Uber. And Tim, kind of fill us in. What does this look like over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so let's step back a little bit. So moonshot thinking, for those who, it's not what you think. So moonshot thinking is basically thinking about ways that we can basically do three things. We have to solve a globally massive problem. So think of like clean water, clean air, climate, whatever. Like these are transportation. These are massive, massive problems that are super complicated and super complex. They're both complicated and complex at the same time, which means that there's no easy way to do this. There's no one answer, right? So that's the big problem to solve. The second part of moonshot thinking is there a breakthrough technology that you can apply to this that will basically cut across all of these complex and complicated issues? And then if that's not hard enough, the third thing is, then can this be commercially viable, and can we actually see this actually become available and scalable across the planet? Because a lot of these ideas are amazing ideas, but they're specific to a geography or a typology or a topography, and they're not scalable either financially or just physically because of physics sometimes, or just because of politics and geopolitics, for example. They can limit them regionally. So if we can go through those three steps, the moonshot thinking process is basically saying, okay, great idea, breakthrough technology, let's apply for it. And in the moonshot approach, you are constantly iterating and failing and learning. And failing and learning and iterating is fundamental to basically doing a moonshot approach. So it's not about like, I have the best idea, and you have a lot of founders, unfortunately, in this space who have the Messiah complex of like, I have the solution, I found the absolute truth, and this is how I'm moving forward. Well, it's like, dude, you don't have any customers and you don't have any traction, so you don't actually have the truth, right? So you're going to figure out how to get through this and get as many customers on board, because they need to see the utility of what you're doing. And I think the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 on this sort of stuff in the real world is that you actually have to see utility. It needs to be usable and accessible for people. So if we go into the city space, cities are the ultimate platforms. They are the space that we work on. They are the IRL to the metaverse city, which is in the virtual, and everything that we do in our daily life is interacting with the physical infrastructure, whether it's the sidewalk, the street, the houses, the buildings, etc. So think of it this way, that as we start moving forward in integrating Web3 into cities and into the transportation space, we're going to see a lot more of these impacting basically how we get around. So not only how we basically route, book, and pay our transport systems. So think that right now, everything's done either manually or it's done by your phone, etc. The idea of having a token that is basically transferable among all modes of transport all the time means that you don't have to constantly log into different systems. You don't have to constantly verify your credit cards, et cetera. And you basically have digital sovereignty. And that means that once we have that up and running, you now can actually move around the world, frankly, in one verifiable way all the time. Not only that, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can I ask you a question on that? And I'm curious, right? So we know that according to Gov, I believe that the FedNow, and you might know a little bit more about this than I will. The FedNow program is going to be launching a government-based token, right? And the devalue of our U.S. dollar, and believe me, I believe in structure and economy and government. I'm not saying that at all. My concern, right, is the use or ability, in which I agree with you. This is all going to happen. Is there concerns from a privacy point when you're moving around? Whereas if I just exchange a physical dollar to your hand there's no tracking of that, right? And because maybe I don't want you to know that I'm going to New York City or that I'm going to Connecticut or that I'm going to San Francisco. Are you concerned with a privacy issue as these things evolve, which they will? I agree with you. And you're working at the forefront of technology. And before you answer that question, the thing that I like about you in this space is that there's a humility and there's thought behind what you're doing, and empathy and a passion, a drive. And I really appreciate how you broke down moonshot thinking on the 3 points, which will you reiterate at the end of the podcast. But what are your thoughts on privacy and government creating a currency? Because what it makes me personally is very bullish on Bitcoin or physical silver. What are your thoughts from not even just an investment standpoint, but more a privacy issue? Is that a concern of yours?
It is. I mean, I've worked in government for over a decade, so I can tell you two things, and this is not a slight on anybody. It's just the reality. I'm a very centrist person. I'm in the center. I always see both sides all the time.
Yep.
Government is really good at saying a lot of stuff and really bad at execution on a bunch of these things. So part of me says to me, okay, I'm a little concerned about this, CCBC, central bank digital coin idea. That is concerning for a bunch of reasons, because if it's done the way that most people are afraid of, it means that the governments worldwide can make decisions on your daily life. And what that means is, the worst case scenario is that they say that, hey, we're tracking the fact that you're not healthy, or that you're not doing X, Y, and Z, or that you're a bad actor for X, Y, and reasons. So we're going to limit your travel, your phone, your system, your connectivity. You're going to have gates barred. You can't move around. And we've seen that in China. So that's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario with this is that you don't have to constantly prove that you're here, there, or whatever, and that you're basically free to move around in the most limitless way possible, which means that when you arrive in a place like, let's just say you're in New York City or SF or anywhere in the world, that the idea of having to pull out your phone, your credit card to log in, download an app so you can use a scooter, or log in and download an app so you can actually use a public transport, etc. The idea that you just move around when you want, that's the best case scenario. Somehow, in my experience, we're going to have something in the middle where things are going to be really annoying sometimes, and some things are going to be really convenient and really amazing to use. And it's up to us as community members to ensure that we provide it as least friction as possible and as most privacy as possible. And that's going to come with our votes. We're going to have to vote on this stuff a lot. And if we see a trend that we don't like, we're going to have to voice our opinion. This is no longer a spectator sport.
Like a collective vote. And I think that's something that really excites me about this technology on the blockchain, is being able to track that, such as decentralized autonomous organizations, or there are other voting mechanisms. But I love that you said that, right? There's a pro to this privacy and there is a con to it. And what I love is you as a centrist is you recognize both, and it's not a bash or a backhand, but I love the fact that you acknowledge that. We're going to talk a little bit about commercial real estate and buildings adapting to a work from home business model, because I'm seeing that drastically change across the board. But before we do, I want to bring in today's special guest, and if you can cue her up with, and I'll tell you in just a second, a screen share. We're going to bring on Ivy, which is the queen. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay?
I can. And if we can cue up that screen share real quick, we have a really special giveaway today, but we're speaking to Queen Maxi, who's part of the ENS community, but well beyond that, she is developing a product which is going to launch in August called good ass tequila, and I can't wait to get a bottle of my own. That's going to be fantastic. But welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's a fun name to say. Everybody likes to get away with the fact that they can say good ass and nobody's offended by it.
I love it. I love it.
And I do like it.
And I see a really beautiful PFP to the side, which that'll be our last talking point. But what came up with the idea to create a product that is directly connected to our Web3 NFT ecosystem?
Well, the thing was, I actually had picked up goodass.eth like as a joke, just kind of something to just to rock on Twitter is something funny because that's just my personality. And then the more I looked at it and the more that I said it, I was like, you know what? That's a perfect brand. Like that would be because you can have good ass food, good ass liquor, good ass everything. So it's just something funny for people to say, but it's also very brandable. And I fell in love with it. So, and I'm very invested in ENS and, Web3 and community. So the fact that I can intertwine my brand with what I love already it's just picture perfect for me.
I'm excited not only to have that bottle in hand, some good ass tequila with my friends, but I love what you're building and you're utilizing the Web3 ecosystem of the ENS Maxi community. And maybe one of these days, guys, we're going to get her to On-Chain Monkey. She knows that this is another great community. So big shout out to both of those communities. There's a lot of respect there. I love how you conduct yourself in the Twitter spaces. I would recommend for everybody to go and follow. I like to say, hit that engage button. I wish it wasn't called follow because I like to see the content that you're putting out. You understand the nuance and the culture of the space. And so it's an honor to have you on. What I do want to do real quick, if you can pop back that beautiful ENS that we're going to be giving away, that ENS Maxi, and talk to us a little bit about this and what your hopes are for the future of the ENS Maxi community.
So what they're bringing up, it's a fire ring zombie. So the fire ring makes up only 2% of the rings in the collection, which is a big deal. The zombies, people love them a lot. And just if you look at that, I mean, it's aesthetically just so pleasing. The background matches it perfectly. It's very cool for someone, especially someone new, to flex. And it's a nice ring. So my hopes for ENS Maxis, I just hope they keep doing exactly what they're doing. We've built such a good family here, and I just hope that we stay on that track because I know this project is going to go so far as long as we just keep doing what we're doing and sticking together.
Great. And then, by the way, in June or July, we're going to have you on as a special co-host. Sometimes we'll do some fill-ins for Meta, but Meta's like always rocking it. And I think, is it okay if we just bring like a fun co-host and switch it up a little bit?
Works for me.
It's an honor to have you on Meta. Do you have any questions for Ivy before we pop her off?
No, I was just checking the page. I love the good ass. It looks like you have the beers and the whiskey as well, the glasses and all that. I really do like the good asses. It's a really good way of branding. Like you said, you can insert anything at the end of that, which is really, really smart. I know a lot of companies, they don't really think about like what's next when they go to just even naming the brand, which is such an important step. But no, I think it's awesome what y'all doing.
No, thank you. There's more plans for it too. I mean, it's not just going to stop at the liquor. I mean, I'm going to probably do a good ass ganja line, which, 420 community is huge, especially in Web3, and good ass clothes. So, I mean, there's going to be a whole brand behind it and just so much potential for where we can go.
Queen, it's an honor to have you on and share the screen for your 5-minute pop. And what we're going to do is I'm going to have you stay in Twitter spaces. Let's get that out there. Let's get people engaged. I don't want to just give this away randomly. I want to give it to someone who's earning it today. I know our spaces are a little light, so let's everybody in Twitter spaces retweet the room. And Ivy, it's an honor to have you on and stay in their Twitter spaces. And we're going to have you back on in the future, my friend.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Let's come back to Tim, today's guest. Tim, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. All right. I haven't left. I'm in the building. So let's come back to our main question, which is how our commercial buildings have to adopt from a work from home business model? How creative and innovative are they going to have to be when we think about cities like San Francisco and New York City and other metropolitan spaces that have lots of either empty space, struggling? How are they going to recreate? Because I know that's part of the concern of transportation roadmap, because where they're going to and from, where are they going? So what do you think is going to happen in the commercial environment?
Yeah, so a lot of things are happening right now. So, for example, San Francisco has been hit the worst because of the way that the city had really concentrated commercial real estate into the downtown. Think of the downtowns in the US as basically, warehouses for people working, and there's just too much of it. It's too single use. It wasn't mixed or diverse at all. It's like, think of it like as in monoculture or like factory farming, but for actual offices. So they got very vulnerable. In San Francisco right now, the Salesforce Tower, which is the tallest building in San Francisco, there are 18 equivalent of those in vacant office space right now. That's a lot of office space, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to have to basically redesign this and rethink about it. The cool thing about remote work and hybrid work and all the different future of work opportunities is that people are going to want to have more of these experiential spaces and more understanding of, if I'm going to go to a place to physically leave my house, it has to be for a purpose and a reason that I really can't do at home by myself. It's not going to be for checking emails and other stuff like that. It's going to be to build something together, to workshop together, to do stuff in IRL that really can only be done in IRL rather than virtually, because a lot of stuff can be done virtually. So these are going to become much more specific, unique, experiential spaces. What that means is going to free up a lot of that other space to be converted to other uses, whether it's housing, culture, services, entertainment, all these different things. So think of all these different opportunities that will be available for those downtowns to turn more into neighborhood, because think of the best neighborhood that you love, that you visit or that you live in. Downtowns have to become more like that. 24-hour cultural learning, play, enjoyment, experience spaces, not just this monoculture of going there to work and leaving. And so that's the huge opportunity. How they will do it, we'll see. We're seeing countries and cities across the world who are really adapting to that. They're changing their ordinances and their zoning to allow for adaptive reuse and adaptive opportunities. And just like Web3 is all about adaptability and adapting to the different opportunities. This is the same thing. So everything that we're seeing in the Web3 space is being applied in some fashion in the physical IRL space.
Yeah.
The methodology is very similar. The outcomes will be very different. The difference in Web3, you can iterate fast and fail fast, really, really fast. You can't do it as fast in IRL. It actually physically requires things to be done and built and applied to. And it affects transport because the whole point of our public transport system's viability is the concentration of people in concentrated times and windows during the day. If we diffuse everybody and disperse everybody, that makes it very difficult for the subways, for example, to become viable. And so what we have to do is we have to create at each station, much more like Japan, where they have retail, housing, entertainment, learning, medical services, so that each of the stations are basically busy all the time, not just for the commute in and commute out.
You know what I was thinking about, Tim, and then Matt, I'll let you go. But one of the things that I was thinking about is in real estate, I'm a realtor, and I've been almost 10 years. One of the things that I think about is we were 5.5 million units short for housing, available housing. And
we're always short that much. Always.
Well, here's the really interesting thing, and I'm going to throw the idea at you. You just said something, right? San Francisco built buildings, office, but they didn't diversify. Not enough mixed use. You could have nightclubs. You could have metaverse buildings where you go in and put your goggles, because people want that human element of experience. Or do we? And you said, right, they're going to leave their house for a purpose or a reason with intent. There's a reason why they're going, and there's a purpose that it's going to serve.
Right.
I want to throw this idea at you. I think very quickly, obviously, we've got a lot of financial issues in our country. I don't like, we'll come to the word inclusion, because I want to hear what that means from you, because it's a buzzword, throws it around, and I kind of want to embrace it and understand from your perspective what that means. Yeah. But when I look at, we could solve in part, and I don't want to be like, oh, it's just magically we can make these things go away and we can all come together, kumbaya. But my thought is we can really solve part of that housing problem with a lot of the building space that is going to be unused. We do it and regulate it in a way, and that affects transportation, part of which you're doing. Do you see that actually, because obviously our country before anything else is capitalist. Everybody loves to make a buck, I myself included. However, I want to do it in the right way. Not everybody does.
Well, we actually haven't given capitalism a chance in this country. We have a version of a crony capitalism, which means that there's winners and losers. But if we actually had real capitalism, we would actually see real competition. But anyway, that's another conversation. But,
No, but I love it. That's a great point. No, thank you for bringing that up. But go ahead.
I always say, let's give capitalism an actual chance. Like, let's actually have capitalism where there's true competition. There are guardrails in place, but we don't have that. We have, winners and losers and subsidies. And the reason why we have so many problems in our society is because our governments have chosen through lobbying of corporations to basically subsidize certain things and penalize other things. And we just need to give everybody like a level playing field. And it's happened with people as well. Like if you're a certain race, color, or gender, you are blocked out or basically left out of the ability of opportunity. And we should be all given the same opportunity. It's up to seize that opportunity. But to your first part of your question, like, the inclusion part, that's what real inclusion looks like. It's give everybody the same kind of opportunity with a level playing field and see what happens. But we obviously don't have that. So we need to keep working on that and correct it, which a lot of people get upset with that because like, well, that means like, affirmative action or quotas and ratios, but we need to correct the imbalances. So we have to do something like that. But to your second part of your question, yes, we absolutely can do that. We're seeing all over the country, many, many cities right now, creating these new things called adaptive reuse or adaptive infill, or what they call infill zoning. Basically, it's allowing you to have what was traditionally a single use or an office type building. If it's thin enough, now fortunately the floor plate has to be thin enough that you actually can convert it to housing, because apartments need windows that operate. They can't be those huge floor plate office buildings. That's going to be very difficult to do that. But there's even ideas of just putting on one side of the buildings, having them apartments, and the other side of the interior being storage, for example, because we still need a lot of storage and a lot of other uses. Think of any building type now that's a service. We're moving to a lot of these like something as a service. They need storage, so these could actually be utilized for that as well. So the opportunities are boundless. It's just that our imagination is still limited by our current regulatory environment or our current zoning requirements. And so those things have to go to city councils, for example, and be adopted and implemented. And they are. We're seeing them all over the country. So I would say that's definitely something we can do. We also have a lot of excess bedrooms in people's houses, frankly. And we have millions and millions of excess bedrooms. And some people don't want to do this, but a lot of people are actually interested in sharing their houses and having people basically, co-house and co-live in their spaces. That's a big trend that we're seeing worldwide, where people are purposely wanting to like go to these, let's call them mini compounds, where you have your own private bedroom and your own private bathroom, but you share the communal spaces. And that means that you have instant community. You can also leave and go as you like. And it's kind of like co-working spaces, but they're kind of like co-living spaces now. And so this is another way to actually soak up that excess capacity and house people that really just need opportunities to live.
I think you make a lot of great points. And we're going to talk a little bit about AI, which your thoughts are in effect. But the idea around it, right, is you and I are having this diverse conversation around inclusion, and it doesn't have to be stigmatizing to figure out a way to make better life for everyone. And more importantly to that, the ideas around bipartisan, I think, when I think about it, real simple, and I share this opinion most with anyone, and I don't dive deep into politics, but the idea of bipartisan, having a conversation with someone who's more conservative or someone that's more liberal, and coming to a meeting ground that has fairness at play. But again, everybody's idea of what fair is. And then when you spoke of capitalism, as you say, crony capitalism versus the actual capitalism and, fair play and giving it a chance to actually work. I don't disagree with you. I think you make some really valid points. And so what I want people to do on our podcast, as we're getting all this alpha from our amazing guests, such as you, Tim, and it's such an honor to have you here today, is that I really want people to challenge their mind, their perception, their ideas. And I think, throughout these past 3 years, as we've seen a lot of world change, I've made sure to do that in my daily life. If I don't agree with somebody, I don't agree with you. I say, hey, can I share my thought or my idea? And then share yours. Right. And I got to tell you, it's evolved me. It's helped me to grow into a better person, and then also to become a better parent and a better leader, I think, within my community and also for the podcast. Now, I do want to go a little bit into AI.
Well, Craig, really quickly, before we dive into AI, I just had one quick question based on what we were just talking about.
Go for it,
I know you were talking about commercial buildings and transportation adapting to work from home business models. I'm just curious, what do you think about the metaverse and how that could play into effect, not only just business model, or not only commercial, but also just housing as well? Because I know I have friends now who work from home, And instead of having all these monitors and like this big setup that I have, they just put on these goggles and they have 16 different monitors in the metaverse. They can go, instead of having to have this big 70-inch TV, they can go in the metaverse, watch TV. It almost seems like you don't need all this space anymore with the metaverse if it was to become, more mainstream. I'm wondering if, commercial buildings, transportation, all this kind of stuff is kind of leaning into that, or are they kind of pushing away from the metaverse?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. We're going to have both. The thing is, we can't have, we are really challenged right now. Everything that we do, all the algorithms that are basically designed to put us in those, to Craig's previous point about the different partisan stuff, it's all about creating these binary systems, right? It's this or that. You're with us or you're against us. You're in this or you're out. It's IRL or real life. You know what? We can have both. Both things can be true. All things can be true. Our life, humans are nuanced. We are a spectrum of ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and systems. As long as we can coexist, and as long as we have systems in place that allow us to coexist, I'm all for it. But once somebody comes up with a statement, an idea or a belief that I should no longer exist because I take up their space or vice versa, that's when we have problems. So anything in the metaverse can be done really well, as long as it's actually coexisting in the real world. My concern about the metaverse taking over everything is that people start discounting or not caring about the IRL world. And that's when we get into big trouble, because we do have to care about the world. We have to go out and touch grass and actually walk and see the sunlight and experience beauty, kindness, and joy. We have to experience the sound of nature and the beauty of animals around us. If we basically move all that in the virtual world, then we basically turn our back on that stuff. So we need both, and I think, and we also need to go into the metaverse and see that we don't recreate the same situations that block out and leave out everybody else and just have a world just for us and only our type of people. So we just need to make sure that we always understand that the world's nuanced. It's a spectrum of ideas, thoughts, and beliefs and lifestyles, and everybody needs to be included. Even the far extreme on both sides, they have a place as well. We just need to check them sometimes that they don't take over the space and make sure that we can coexist as well.
No, I like that point, because again, when you go off a cliff on either side, the reminder of that poster, we should be all in this together. It's more of a kumbaya statement, but you make a lot of really great points, right? Allow people to exist and be whom they are. We hear some rustling in the back, but I think more importantly, it's not to challenge someone's existence. It's to say, if someone doesn't agree, that's okay. And I think how we're developing and iterating the transportation space, how digital identity. So I want to throw some things at you, because at the end, MetaMatt's going to have some amazing rapid fire questions, Tim, and I don't think you're ready. No, you are, because you're a quick thinker. But when I think of NFT communities and I think about cohesion, I want to talk about community around, and let's maybe focus today on on-chain monkeys. Let's talk about them a little bit. What got you into that community? What has you so bullish on what they're doing, and where do you see their future evolving as a digital asset class? Because for me, as I collect right now, I'm collecting artists, and then I also collect or double down on things and communities that I believe in, such as the on-chain monkeys. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I really love on-chain monkeys for a bunch of reasons, but one of the main reasons is that when I first met the founder, when I met Bill and Amanda in person. Haven't met Danny yet, so in person, but I've met him in various spaces. But when I first met them, I was like, three things stood out. One is seasoned veterans who know what they're doing. That's really important for me. Two, very realistic about the space. They never overpromised and underdelivered. They've always underpromised and overdelivered. To me, that's really, really important. And three, they're just really good people. They're good people to be around. They're genuine. They're down to earth. They are aligned with a lot of the values that I have in my life as well. And then I started meeting the community amongst them, and some of the people like, Good Things, and then some of the community members like, Sophia Vachetta, etc. There's so many people there that I was like, wow, they not only work in this space and they believe in this space, but they're actually doing what I think, which is the most important thing, is doing well by doing good. Mm-hmm. And the idea that you can do well by doing good is my mantra of my life. And as long as we can make sure that we're keeping it real, which is what I love about this community, they keep it real. They keep the utility real as well. Like the idea that the utility is not just this thing that you can have it as a PFP or a digital asset, but there's in real life events. I've met so many people. I've actually helped a lot of people through the IRL events we've had through On-Chain Monkey, whether it's looking for jobs, advice, mentorship, etc. And vice versa. I have one or two questions sometimes that I'm not sure about, like, what is this, what is that? I mean, the IRL, the on-chain monkey community, even through Discord or other places, it's my chat GPT. Like, I ask any question I want and I'll get the answer straight away. It's better than chat GPT because it's the real alpha. So to me, I get to learn more about the Web3 space through the on-chain community than anywhere else, because it's genuine people who are super interested. They're also kind and they're generous with their time. And to me, that's a pay it forward. So in vice versa, I basically become more kind and more generous with my time with anybody that needs help on that world as well.
I love it. The core values of on-chain.
Core values.
Rise, respect, integrity, sustainability, and enrichment.
Yeah.
You know what? They cover that gamut, and you are a product and a community member, just as I am, of On-Chain Monkey.
Yeah.
And we watch it continue to grow and thrive. And I watch new people come on, maybe such as the Queen today, because she knows, she heard from Mr. Stephen Miller. She's like, should I get involved in the community? I'm like, yes. You guys from the beginning, as well as ENS Maxis, were actually the two communities that really, and there were more people along the way, but I would put out stuff and it was amazing the engagement that I got. Shout out to Flexter.eth, also Stephen Miller, also Good Things, Amanda Terry we've had on, Danny Yang, you. I mean, the support of the community around this podcast has been tremendous from these communities behind me, and I'm truly grateful. And when you look at making a move and you look at how our economy is kind of stagnant, we call it stagflation. I think stagflation, that's the correct word. And we're kind of trying to figure out what a new normal is. And someone wants to come into this space and there are all these nuances. Listen, when you look at .com and now you look at Web3, this is a time to come in, explore, experiment, but most importantly, don't bet everything on it, but listen, be cohesive, be a part of the community. So I want to ask you a little bit about Discord, right? When you go in there and you want to learn and you say it's better than, or even Twitter, but I would assume you're speaking more to Discord. When you go in and you say, I ask a question and I get an answer that's better than ChatGPT, I always say your output is only as good as the input. What kind of questions have you asked just off the cuff that you've gotten some really good answers to that have really helped you to learn and grow?
Well, I mean, I started off with, with asking questions about just, what is this all about? Like what's happening? I was in various different Discord forums before, and it wasn't until I went to an IRL event and I actually met a few of the on-chain monkeys themselves, and I got to ask them more specific questions. We had more detailed information, and it was just like really basic things, like even being an expert in certain spaces, there's always opportunities to learn and learn different things, but understanding, for example, how does this actually work? What does it mean back then? This seems like 10 years ago, it was actually a year ago. Like, what does actually on-chain actually mean? How does it physically work to write the code on-chain? And to learn that, and then now understanding more about the ordinals and that sort of thing is really super helpful for me, because what it means is that I can get the information from the internet. I can actually go and ask these questions, but the person who's actually part of the team building it, like what it means from them in their own words, and also the passion that comes behind that, that is really super helpful. I will say that I don't love Discord. I'm on it very rarely because I find it really clunky and annoying, but that's just me because I'm super into UI and UserX, and I don't like things that are just not easy. MetaMask as well, all of them. We have so much work to do. The onboarding to get people on into Web3 space right now is intimidating, and the more we can make it barrier-free, the definition of innovation is removing barriers so that we can create adoption. And we have a lot of barriers to work on this space. I
agree with you. And by the way, we're going to come to MetaMatt in just a second because I want to talk to him about NFT NYC, his experience out there. And then we'll talk a little bit about that Pepe coin, the full degenerate token. And I told Matt at the beginning of the episode, I'm like, guy, I'm not getting any Pepe token. He goes, me neither. It's like someone else can do that. They can either go broke or be, win Lambo. I'm not the guy for that. When I think about Chat GPT, we talk about artificial intelligence, and I think this is sort of a stretch when I say, are humans going to be replaced by robotics and AI going to run everything? I agree with you. Will there be less thought behind human actions because we will be interdependent on these technologies that we will be the button pusher? So here's my thought. I'm going to give you my example, and then I want to hear what your thoughts on it. So when I do my fire introduction, that's my writing. But what I'll do is I'll create it and then I'll compare it against Chat GPT, and I'll say, can you refine some of the content in here to make it sound smoother? Or I'll use a different word. And it's very interesting when you do those prompts. Again, output's only as good as the input.
Totally.
So I'll use them as comparison. I'll send them over to Meta, and I'll be like, Meta, which one do you like? And I'm still like 5 for 5. So Chat GPT is pretty freaking good. When you look at ChatGPT, I look at it as a tool of learning and growth and very quick research. Now, some of that research is outdated. And that's why, as you just said, we go into other platforms other than the Discord. And I completely agree with you to get or get information directly from people who are engaged and enriched, because you could go and Google something. But when you look at ChatGPT, how has that been a useful tool for you right now? And where do you see it going, say, over the next 2 years?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I use both ChatGPT and Bard. Bard because it's current, and then ChatGPT because it's really one of those things you can use. So I always compare both. I do a lot of writing, I do a lot of research, and I do a lot of synthesizing of things. So this is a really good tool to help me synthesize my thoughts, my ideas. I get these 2 a.m., 3 a.m. wake ups where I'm like, I gotta just jot this stuff down, and then I will use those tools to make sense of it. But they do have limitations, and I use it as a way to basically help me narrow things down and to help me summarize things as well. I don't use it for original content creation because it's limited and it doesn't actually understand my voice and my point of view. Over time, it will. But we're in these 3 phases right now of AI, which I think are important for people to understand. Right now, we're in this what we call narrow AI. This is a phase that of the development of AI systems that perform specific tasks such as speech recognition, image processing, et cetera, summarization. It's not AI specific. It's like, aggregated average information. That's really what we have right now. When we move into the development of AI systems, basically performing much wider range of tasks that can learn and adapt to new situations, that's when it becomes like a next level of assistance. But we're not there yet. And the ultimate phase is what people call super intelligence, where this involves AI systems that are basically more intelligent than humans, but that's a long way away. And honestly, I'm not sure we're even going to get there, because just the way that things are. The thing about humans that we really be aware of, we have curiosity and paranoia. That's something that AI is very, very challenging doing. And it's not just about feelings. Yeah, we have feelings as well, but we have curiosity on one end of the spectrum and paranoia. All of this AI generative content is looking from this second of me speaking backwards. It's very difficult to go from this second forwards. The idea that I can imagine and think things up is very challenging. And I think that's what the difference is. So humans, as long as we're creative, curious, paranoid, unfortunately, we're still going to be in charge.
I love that. And this to me is the definition of alpha. Because the alpha I would hear when I first got involved is, Craig, you want to get this token. And let's just say tax loss harvesting is a great thing to grab some new ETH for next year's tax planning. So again, don't learn the hard lessons. Take your time to plot, plan, strategize, and implement your next move. And this is part of it, right? Because you just mentioned a lot of great things. You want to work in tandem with these technologies. Right. You want to ask questions, practice JOMO, joy of missing out. It's okay, because there's going to be something else that's going to come along that's going to keep you as excited as the thing that you wanted to get into that you knew nothing about. But MetaMatt, before I get to you, I do want to bring Wylan up, if we can, as speaker, because he gets 60 seconds to have to pitch you on his idea. And you know what? I'm
not in charge of Google X, by the way, but I'm happy to hear it. Yeah.
I was just about to say he's not in charge, Wylan, but he's got connections. So if you make a heck of an impression on him, who knows, you'll be a billionaire. And I'd love you to be my first sponsor, my big sponsor. So Wylan, come up on stage, my good man.
Oh my gosh, Craig, you're hilarious.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me up, man. I really appreciate it. And Tim, it's good to meet you. Matt, I don't think we've met before either. So good to meet you as well.
Good to meet you.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll kick it off. Gosh, Tim, I feel like you and I could talk for a while. Just looking at
Let's do it. I'm happy
with transport, and city real estate. So the project I'm working on, and it's similar to Jeff Bezos's flywheels, right? If you start with selling books and you build your flywheels, but the initial one is to decentralize agriculture, right? Mm-hmm. So you take either vacant lots in cities or empty commercial real estate space and put vertical aeroponic systems in it, right, to grow food at an exponentially more efficient rate than growing it in the soil. About 90% less water and 98% less land. And then you can develop the workforce, right, by training and giving people with criminal backgrounds the ability to operate these things, right? So yeah, that's the initial. So starting a nonprofit to decentralize agriculture and develop the workforce by building greenhouses on vacant land with vertical aeroponic systems and training people with criminal backgrounds to operate them.
I love that idea.
What I see. Yeah, one more quick idea. In the long term, what I see is strip mining landfills, right? So since 1990, America has buried about $100 billion worth of steel and aluminum in our landfills. And that's its value at dirty scrap, basically, right? Yeah. So with waste to energy incineration, we could actually process all this waste that's in landfills, reclaim that land and airspace, clean up the waste, and actually have a abundant amount of raw materials and energy to pump into the economy and really rebuild with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
that's the flywheel. Start with a single vacant lot with a greenhouse, and eventually strip mine the landfill.
I said go for it. There's several of these companies that have been around. Gotham Greens, for example, different types of companies that are basically doing these indoor aeroponic agricultural systems in cities. The thing that they've actually come across with, the technology is there, the idea is really strong, and the ability to bring in people from disadvantaged groups to actually have meaningful, purposeful work. All those things are really amazing, and if you search those, you'll find them. There's ones in Brooklyn, there's ones in Newark, for example, right now that are working on that. The one fundamental thing that they're all trying to get around is the energy. Like, how do they basically manage the energy of these things? Because they are pretty energy intensive. So understanding the renewable energy part of it, for the cost to make it basically pencil out economically has been one of their uphill battles. But if you can solve that for them, I think they'd be more than open to see that. I think, Wylan, what you're saying is that we have all the technology. We have the ideas. We just need to start implementing them. And I think that's the fundamental thing about moonshot thinking, is that sometimes it's actually an earth shot. It's not a moonshot, it's an earth shot. It's like it's right in front of us. It's hidden in plain sight. We just need to basically peel away the layers of ignorance that we have on these opportunities and actually go for it. Strip mining landfills, for example. There's a company called Redwood Materials, if you've heard of them. They are basically recycling all of the batteries around the world and pulling out materials to create recycled batteries for cars and for transportation and for businesses. And they too have basically said that there's probably enough of the materials that we need to generate almost all of our material needs in these landfills, at least for a decade or more. So bits are there. It's just that we have to go ahead and start doing it. So power to you, man. Go for it. Go for it.
I love it. I love it. And Wylan, I would just suggest that you connect in the DMs with Tim. I've spoken to Wylan in the past. You're an incredibly intelligent, articulate individual, and I'm so excited to follow your success. And it's just great. And by the way, we've picked a winner. We're not going to do that yet. I want to come to MetaMatt, and I want to talk to him about NFT NYC. And let's talk about that shitcoin Pepe.
Yeah, no, NFT NYC was a blast. It was a lot different than the prior convention last year. I was a lot less people, but also the people who were there to be there for Web3. They knew what it was about. I also noticed the biggest takeaway, I guess, is I'm not talking about the degens and the consumers, more so the builders and the people who are actually who have, like Tim was saying, a Web2 experience. A lot of them are looking towards AI more than they are looking at NFTs. It seems like Web3 is kind of pushing away from those three letters, from those three letters NFTs, which for good reason, I believe. And I'm just curious to see how AI does if it does take over the Web3 space and how that might look. As far as Pepe coin, like we were saying before, I personally haven't touched it. I just don't have the time to to be doing these, to be messing around with these volatile coins like this. I know a lot of people do, and that's great for them. They're active day traders or bot traders or whatever it may be. For me personally, it's just the risk is just not worth the reward. I'm not, if I want to go gamble, I'm going to go to the casino 20 minutes away,
Yeah, you're gonna have some social interaction, not just not going through a smart contract. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, pretty much.
No, that's great. I'm so happy that you went to NFT NYC this year. I went last year, and I'm hoping to go in the subsequent years. One of the goals for the podcast is to be a keynote speaker. And Tim is, as I said, I've watched a lot of your content. We actually pinned it to the page in Twitter Spaces. he's an incredible speaker. I'm speaking like he's not here, but he really brings forth his ideas. I also want to do some moderating for some really great, powerful panels. And obviously, at some point, we'll be able to monetize the platform, I believe, because we bring some of the best content in Web3. But I do want to do a quick screen share because we do have a winner, and that winner is Sophia. Sophia, you are the winner of that ENS Maxi. So I am going
my Web3 sister.
Congratulations. And by the way, Queen and Sophia, I want you guys connecting in DMs because I think there's a lot to talk about, and you both rule in your subsequent houses of On-Chain Monkeys for Sophia and ENS Maxis for the Queen. I'm going to love for you guys to come together and build that relationship even more so. As you can see right behind me, these are two powerful communities that have shown me nothing but love from the very beginning. All right, so Tim, in wrapping up our episode, I first want to say it's an honor to have you on. You gave me a lot of cue cards of great insight and ideas on how to conceptualize what it is that you do in this space. And I think we covered the surface. I look forward to continuing to follow your success. We're going to keep our Twitter spaces open for the next 5 minutes. Shout out to Wyland for coming on. Guys, if you're not subscribed or following my Twitter or my YouTube account, I would love for you to do that. Share that with people. We want to bring forth more incredible guests such as Tim. Tim, you are a friend of the podcast. But before we end off on our YouTube Live, our Facebook, and our LinkedIn Spaces, before we close out to Twitter Spaces, we want to have Meta Matt hit you with some rapid fire questions. And Meta Matt, it better be good.
Yeah, I got a few not so rapid and then a few rapid. The first one I do want to quickly ask you about is I saw that you were at the New York Stock Exchange with the On-Chain Monkeys fam. Yeah. I had to ask because I'm more in the stock trading world than I am in the Web3 world originally. What was that like?
I have to tell you, it was one of the most incredible experiences. Like two things that were memorable. One, that it's an historical building, obviously, right? There's so much history behind it. It's an institution. It's like everything that we live and breathe and live like, it's there. So it was kind of like this, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. That was the first, can't believe. And then at one point we walked upstairs and we're actually on one of those balconies, and Amanda and I were just walking in and we both went, OMG. We saw the On-Chain Monkey logo on every screen. Yeah. And it kind of hit us. We're like, a year and a half ago, we were happy with like a happy hour at some like random cafe. And now we're actually in the stock exchange building. Like it was like, this is how far we've come. And we could only imagine, like it really hit me. I was like, wow, this is just the beginning. It's like capital LFG. Like we're going to just take this to the next level. And I can't wait.
That's huge right there. To me, like I know a lot of people, like you just said, a lot of the NFT projects, they get psyched when they see, their picture on like a bar bar like wall or something like that. But yeah, the New York Stock Exchange is insane. Yeah. I was checking your profile. I had to click this link. It went to Waymo. It's looking like the world's first self-driving robotaxi trucking and delivery vehicle technology. I'm just curious because you're definitely in the thick of it. When do you see if this will happen? Because we keep talking about mainstream adoption of Web3. When it comes to these self-driving vehicles, when do you think that everyone will be just not driving or driving these around?
Well, again, those are binary questions, right? So we're not gonna have those binary situations, but right now we're seeing it's being deployed as we speak. You can pick up a ride-hail robotaxi in San Francisco. Actually, Waymo and Cruise can do it. Cruise just announced yesterday they're going 24/7. So if you live in San Francisco, you can pick up a Cruise vehicle 24/7 now. It's starting to deploy. There's a few cities across the world that they're starting to deploy. It's a software issue. The hardware is really good. All of the sensor suite, LiDAR, radar, etc., all cameras, they're really good, and they're following Moore's law of twice as efficient every 18-24 months. So it's actually good enough for deployment. It's the software side, the decision making of the brain. Just to give you like 4 questions that the AI has to answer and do really well between the AI and the ML is: where am I? What's around me? What's everybody doing? And what should I do next? If you can answer those 4 questions, you can create the safe path of travel. And it's the what's everybody doing and what should I do next is where the software is basically getting better and better every day. And the more you can answer those questions with confidence, the more it can pick you up and drop you off, just like a ride-hailing service does. But don't think of it just for ride-hailing and for taxis. Anything that has wheels, that moves, is going to be automated. Trucks, planes, ships, tractors, everything. And we're seeing it much more in the off-road space. So agriculture and mining right now, that is basically being fully automated. So the less complicated the situation is, the less complexity of the space and the slower it's going, the more rapidly it's going to adopt. When those three things are the opposite, it's going to be the last to adopt because of the situations they're in.
Would you personally get into a plane driven by an AI pilot?
I mean, it's the plane basically, once it takes off, the journey between the takeoff and the landing is basically autopilot anyway. So it's been doing it for a while. So we kind of are already, if you go in those the people movers between the airports, the gates, those are automated as well. Many of the metros around the world are run by AI. So we're already living it right now. It's just a matter of fully executing it.
Right. I'm curious what your thoughts on, everyone talked about Elon Musk, Tesla, Twitter. He's another company, though, I think is interesting. The Boring Company is what it's actually called. I'm curious what you think about that and the whole execution and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Elon makes really amazing statements and doesn't always deliver, but, that's the whole purpose of getting people out about things and getting up and running. Look, they get really close to things and they're learning and iterating. That is the epitome to me of how they're doing their moonshot approaches. They're failing fast, iterating. I don't want to be the guinea pig of that iteration, though. That's the difference. I don't want to be the science experiment in the vehicle. That should be done somewhere else. So that's my only beef that I have with the whole approach that they have. But power to them. They're really pushing the envelope and they're moving us forward as fast as they can.
And so off of Craig's intro, it says here, Tim led cross-functional teams to implement sustainable and socially equitable urban mobility technology, focusing on climate resiliency. I wonder when it comes to the NFT space, I know there's a lot of the haters of the NFT space says that, it's, the climate change, and NFTs are affecting climate in a negative way. I'm just curious if you do believe that, and if so, or if not, what do you think the NFT space is doing right when it comes to climate control or helping all that?
So working in a lot of the space around messaging and communication that I've done in like 20 years, my first question is, when I hear those kinds of statements, who's behind those statements? Usually it's the opposition. They don't like it. So they're basically smearing it and doing anti campaigns. A lot of the financial institutions are the ones behind the misinformation about Bitcoin's energy consumption. A lot of the traditional media forms are the ones who are behind anti-NFT messaging. So always find out who's behind the messaging, because that's really going to give you the perspective. But NFTs are a digital asset. They are expressed in their first version through art. Art is always at the intersection of disruption and innovation. They're always the first place we try things out. So it's naturally that digital asset collectibles will be expressed in this way. Did they go kind of like all over the place? Yeah, because they weren't limited by the physical form. So because they were in a virtual opportunity, they could really go out there and really fast. And I think we've seen that now. The ones that are going to stay are staying, and the ones that were just crap have just basically evaporated. So from this point on, it's utility. If you don't have that, you're out.
That's definitely true. And I have some more questions, but I'm going to say those are the Twitter Spaces. My last one for the YouTube. I'm always watching you on the Twitter. Rocking your on-chain monkey merch. I'm just curious, what was your first on-chain monkey merch, and then what's your favorite on-chain monkey merch that you currently own?
My first on-chain monkey merch, I think, and Sophia and Good Things will correct me, I think it was my initial cap or the initial T-shirt. I can't remember which one it was, but I was over the moon. And then I just keep getting more and more. This is the whole reason why I love, other than meeting everybody, the IRL events give you incredible merch. And you get to keep it. I've got my Bitcoin one now. I've got my digital art version. I have a couple of T-shirts. I've got this is the Miami edition cap. Cool. I have the New York cap. I've got my socks. I think I'm not wearing them today, but yeah, I wear the socks. So I have the pins. So wherever I can, I rock it. And I will say this: I've actually done a lot of projects with other companies, and out of the audience, someone will come up and say, "I'm an on-chain monkey as well." I'm like, do you even know about our community? That don't even know about the community. So it's amazing. It's a really good way to get people to, and then it's a real good conversation maker. So people say, like, what is that on-chain on this? What does it actually mean? What does this actually mean? I explain to them. They're like, oh, that's really cool. So it's a really good, I think it's really good advertising.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I'm always rocking my Penny Boys merch, just because, it's like walking advertisement, walking billboard. You got to do it.
And it's also like, I was in the Galapagos last week, and just going to throw that out there. So I was there for a sustainability resilience workshop with the governments there and some of these amazing startups. And I had this merch. I had this with me as I was walking around with the different groups, and they were also working in Web3 spaces and Web3 tools, and getting to explain they're doing well by doing good, and what the DAO's done to fund all of these incredible programs, whether it's helping people to safety or with the war in Ukraine, etc. It really got them to see like, oh, I can really look and expand this. It's not just about X, Y, and Z. So you never know these situations that come up with you when you're in these spaces. So if you can rock your merch, do it, because it opens up the conversation. And again, we can talk about other things.
I'm also going to say X Company and Waymo, when you guys are in the Twitter spaces, just click on those links. It's unreal, the technology that's coming.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
All right, gentlemen, let's hop into the Twitter spaces. And Tony, let's close this out for today.
Thank you so much for watching CraigO's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technologies. CraigO signing off.